Okay.
What's up there, boys and girls? Welcome to the show. This is Chris, that's Mike, and this is Lemoyne Alexander. He is a guest we're super excited to have on the show because his credibility, his life resume is outstanding. You can find us, as always, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So, Lemoyne Alexander, welcome to the show.
His name is
man. How are
Lemoyne.
you? Lemoyne,
Yes,
Lemoyne, damn it.
Lemoyne. Yes.
Lemoyne.
It's okay. It's okay. I get that all the time.
I know, but I'm not that guy. I like to be like I'm pronouncing your name properly and plugging
That's
you
why
properly.
we did this before the show. I got to
I know.
bust his balls a little bit, man.
It's my OCD, man. It's just who I am. But now I remember Lemoyne.
Lemoyne.
Yes, that's
Lemoyne.
what I tell everybody. Des Moines, Lemoyne. That's what I usually say.
Lemoyne. So introduce yourself to we have this going live right now on YouTube, and then we'll be on the podcast platforms as well. So introduce yourself to our fans.
Welcome, YouTube viewers. My name is Lemoyne Alexander. I'm a recording artist of rock and roll.
Right on.
Yes.
Right on. That song you heard from the beginning of our show, that's actually Mike and I when we had our band Nemesis. That's a song
really?
called Free Man. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Nice.
A song called Free Man. Because it's
I
relevant.
like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That means a lot coming from you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I
It does.
appreciate it.
It always means more coming from another musician.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
absolutely.
we have our own language.
Yes,
Absolutely.
We do. Yep. So give us. We're in an elevator going to the 22nd floor. This is floor number 1. Talk about yourself for 22 floors, man.
Yeah, where did you get started and how did you go from, so I did my own little research, Chris said that. How did you go from the hip hop, R&B, how did you go from that side of things to wanting to be a rock and roll star? That fascinates me.
Back in the day, I was a major force in the rap game, producing a lot of big name recording artists.
Okay.
And
I
it
noticed.
was around the time when it was the Biggie and the Tupac confusion going on. And I lost a lot of casualties in that. And the music changed, everything changed, and I wanted no part of it. So
Okay.
I walked away, and I had just got offered all these millions of dollars to do all of this stuff. And I said, I'm not doing that anymore. And I cold turkey walked away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That says a lot, man.
And then I was stuck with okay, so what am I going to do? You know, I've done a lot of TV, I've done a lot of movies, soundtracks and stuff, but
Cool.
I still needed to get some of me out, and I didn't know where to go. And at the time, my dad I didn't know he had cancer. He was telling me, I really want you to go back and sing and do your own thing. It's time for you to stop producing and writing for everybody else. It's time for you to do you.
Right on.
And I was like, I've always hid behind my production and everything, so I never wanted to be up front.
Okay.
So I started a rock band called State of Grace.
Right on.
And we
I
did
like
a
that.
lot of songs, and one of those songs that really sparked off everything for us was the remake of The Killer Queen with Queen. I did a song with Queen.
Oh, right on, man.
That's
Killer Queen
awesome.
for the movie Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, sweet.
And it never got picked up, but we still put it on the album. And
Okay.
Queen added it to their discography, so I was happy about it.
That is
Dude.
super impressive. Congratulations, man.
Yeah. man.
That's huge.
And that's the record right there. If you can see it, we got a plaque for that. And from that point on, we did 4 albums, and at the end of that term with the band, it lasted 10 years, and I kept saying, everybody was really complaining in the band because I wrote, produced, played all the instruments, and all they did was perform.
Right.
And my managers was like, see, you're the guy, you should be up front and, drop the band. And I was like, no, I'm never going to drop the band. And the band dropped me. So I
Oh,
said, okay, it's time for me to figure out what I'm going to do. And I end up going back talking to my dad, and me and him had a long talk. And I didn't know at the time when we were talking, he was on his deathbed. And he basically said, make a promise to me that you would, record your own stuff. And
nice.
if you do that, then I'll be there to be with you. And I
Cool.
said, okay. So I left and I went home and I started working on Solitude.
Okay.
And
Solitude was
he passed.
2019, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. One of my favorite albums. Plus, it was my debut album.
Okay. Right on.
He passed during the making of the album. And
Mm,
I dedicated the whole album to him. In
right
fact, I
on.
was almost going to quit, but I just kept going because I knew that's what he would want me to do. And I didn't even get a chance to shop it. I just, you know, talked to maybe one or two people about the record, and Isotopia picked it up right away, told me to finish it, and then they
Cool.
dropped it. And then I did the second album, A Perfect World, same way during the pandemic. It was always something going on when I was working on both of
Right.
my albums.
Okay.
And then I ended my contract with Isotopia, and I was in the middle of a divorce, and that divorce prompted me to write more songs. And like Insecurity was one
Mm-hmm.
of my favorite
Isn't that a
songs, which
isn't that a
we was
is
not planning on putting that out.
right? But isn't
And
it
my
amazing how
management
yeah,
team,
yeah.
huh?
I said, isn't it amazing how relationship turmoil creates just
Some of the best
some of the
music
best
ever
music and the
recorded.
best. Yeah, it's because everybody can gravitate to it, right? Everybody can relate
Yeah, I
to
mean,
it.
I've gotten that, but what you guys don't know was I was in the middle of divorce when that happened,
Yeah.
and I was single,
Okay.
and I wrote the lyrics based on a date that I had went out on, and I knew that me and her would, because I was so insecure because of my divorce. I really
Hmm.
felt like I can't be, in a relationship or dating or anybody. I don't even know why I was doing it, and I kept it real with this person, and I told him the truth, and I wrote lyrics about it, and that's how that song came about. It was for therapy for me. But when
Gotcha.
management heard it, they was like, "You need to put this record out. This is going to help a lot of people in the world." And I clearly didn't think like, I wasn't thinking like that.
Yeah.
And so I ended up talking with my management got me another deal with a company called Wicked Records, and we ended up all three of us talking together and said, "Hey, let's make this the first single."
Nice.
and and
There-
with the first single, they decided to do an animation video, which was different. I'd never seen that before. And it turned, I had no idea, you
Yeah.
guys, I had no
Yeah.
idea that song was going to do as much as it did.
I've just heard that
341 of,
story. I've heard that
yeah,
story so many times, man, where like probably one of the most famous is Hetfield talking about Nothing Else Matters. He's like, that was for me, and I played it for me, and I accidentally played it in front of one of those guys one of those days, and they were like, I think it was Bob Rock heard it first, hey, what's that?
yes,
Like, whoa,
yes,
no, I'm not taking this to Mattel. No, you don't understand. I can't play this in front of these guys. That was the
yeah,
story. The producer heard it first, and he's like, I can't go play this pretty stuff in front of those guys. They're going to laugh at me.
yeah.
And Bob Rock was like, no, you don't understand. That's going to be the biggest song you ever had.
And clearly I didn't, when I was doing, and you're right about that, because I love that song that they did, but
Me too.
clearly when I was doing Insecure, as I was writing the lyrics and singing it to it, I was like, there's something with this song.
Yep.
And I had a flight like the previous morning, and I was driving in the car like I had just finished the song, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm driving, and it just, I don't know what it did. It was like magic. It touched me.
Yeah.
I love those
And I
moments.
almost literally had a car accident. And I said
Wow.
something about this song. I hit a ravine, and I got out, and nobody was around during the process of the accident. I got back in the car. The song was still playing, and I just drove to the house. packed up and got on a plane, and I had it in my headphones.
Mm.
I'm like, there's something about this song. I don't know what it is, but there's something about this song. And when management heard it, like I said, I was like, I felt like Hetfield felt. Like, this is for me, when I'm starting to feel, I have to remind myself when
Right.
you're listening to help me understand what my position is and what I can and cannot do. So
But
I
those
used
are
it.
the best moments because,
are.
like, Chris always uses the word vulnerable, right? When someone is willing to be 100% vulnerable, that's when your true self comes out, and
Yep.
that's what people want to see, right?
Absolutely.
That's true. Yep. You're absolutely right about that.
But it's hard to do that.
It is hard to do that.
It's hard, but for me, it was like magic. I did the lyrics. I wrote the lyrics. I sang the song one time. That was it. And
Yeah.
I didn't even go back to listen to it. I just played it in the car, and that's it. And we took it from there. When they heard it, they were playing it every day, and they called me and they said, "Man, we have to put this out."
Right on.
And
So
I was
so
a
tell
little
us.
skeptical about it at first, but then I was like, you know what? Let's see. I had no idea TikTok would be on TikTok with 3.41 million.
Wow.
Holy,
That's outstanding.
Congratulations.
Man. So
That's
so
awesome.
so people that just joining us, on the YouTube side of it, drop the name of that album again and which song you're talking about.
It's called Insecurity by
Right.
Lemoyne Alexander from the album Alone.
Right on. And now all your products you can find on Apple Music,
Yes,
Spotify.
Apple, Spotify, YouTube,
Yep.
every place where you can get music, I'm there.
Cool. Yeah, I just went onto your YouTube channel and I saw I didn't play it obviously because we're having a conversation, but I saw the animated video pop up right away.
Yeah, Vivo picked it up right away. I didn't even
That's
know that
cool,
either.
man.
When I found out about it, they called me and said, Vivo just picked up your video.
Right
I
on,
was
man.
like, wow.
So
I
your
was excited.
transition from the rap world to the rock world, was rock something you just wanted to try? Is that where your heart's always lied?
Well, there's a story behind that. When I was growing up, I was influenced by guitars. And,
Awesome. Me too.
and the first real sound that got my attention was the guitar in
Me too.
The Diana Ross and the Supremes song "Someday We'll Be Together."
Okay. Yep.
That
What a
part,
great song. Yes.
I was listening to it. I was a kid. I was like maybe 9 years
Okay.
old, and
Right on.
I'm listening to it, and it really mesmerized me. I mean, it put a spell on me, and I was like, whatever that is, I love it, and I want to play that.
Cool.
And as I was growing as a teenager, my first reaction to guitars was in church. When I go to church and I see the guy playing the guitar with wah-wah, that influenced me. I was like, I got to play
Yeah,
guitar.
at your
I don't know how
church
to
they
play,
did
but
that, not at mine.
yeah,
wanna
yeah,
play
our
that.
church, yeah, our churches didn't do that, man.
You went to the cool church,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my church was wow, 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 wow. They was doing all this, and I'm like,
I would still be
wasn't paying
going to
attention
church.
Right?
at church.
Yeah.
I wasn't
yeah.
even paying attention to the pastor. No,
No.
I'm dead center looking at the guy play the guitar.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that would be me.
There you go.
I was like,
Yep.
oh my God,
Yep.
that's what I want to do. And then
Yeah.
as my brother, it started with me being suspended from school. And there was an old beat up guitar in the closet during the winter
Yeah.
of me being suspended. And I had to do a whole week with my dad at his house. My parents were divorced.
Okay.
And I
And that was your
bored
and
to
that was your punishment.
death.
just spend a week
I
at
had to
your
stay
dad's
with my
house.
dad. That was it. And he was not nobody to play around with. So when he would leave to go to work, I'd be bored. So I went in the
Yeah.
closet, and I don't know what I was in the closet for, but I felt something behind all of the clothes, and it was this old beat up guitar. I
Right
said,
on.
"You got to be kidding me!" And I took it, and I just went berserk over it. It had no name. It was my uncle's guitar, and so I used it as a project. I cleaned it
Was it
up.
acoustic? Was it acoustic or was it electric?
No, it was electric.
Okay. Okay.
Sweet.
And then I patched it up. I smoothed it out, put stickers and stuff on it, and it was no good. Maybe 2 strings on it or whatever. And I just started playing whatever I could think of, and it from that point on, I just did it every day. And my dad would come home like, what is he in there doing? And he found out that I was totally into the guitar.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then,
did he embrace that and champion it?
Yes,
It's like,
he did.
okay,
Yes,
cool.
he did. Fully
awesome.
developed me to
Right
a
on.
point where he saw some interest. He saw me have an interest
Yeah.
in music.
My parents did
that's
the
good.
same thing. They paid for
Yeah.
my lessons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mine was
a whole different direction.
Mine was the complete opposite. Her statement was, "Oh, you don't need to get into that shitty world. You don't need to play. You don't need to be one of those people like that."
We had
legit.
supportive parents, Lemoyne. Chris did not.
Yeah, like you don't want to get in that world. It's like, oh, okay, all right, well,
But as I was going, and now I have really found my sound. I had the guitar cleaned up, and the guy at the music shop, he fixed it up, cleaned the pots, put new strings on it. Now I had to learn it was 6 strings. So I'm like, what do I do with 6 strings?
Right.
So what I did was as a kid, I was watching Midnight Special and rock concert every Friday.
How old are you? How old are you?
At that time, I think I was 11.
No, how old are you? How old are you right now?
You wouldn't believe it, man.
Well,
I am 52.
Okay, I'm 55. I'm 55, man.
I'll be 52 in August.
That's why I want to know, because I remember that. I remember those.
Yeah, we all watched the same thing growing up.
Oh, yeah. I watched it, and I was like, I had my guitar in my hand, and I was watching everything that they were doing, and I was playing everything. I picked up everything, especially on Midnight Special. Midnight Special was the best.
Yeah.
Because all the rock bands was playing.
Mm-hmm.
Very few R&B and funk bands. But I said, I want to start a band, so I got with my brother and my best friend, and he got his sister, and the 4 of us started a band, and that's all they wanted to play was funk. I said, no, let's play some Wild Cherry and let's do some other stuff. Nobody wanted to play rock.
Oh, wow.
So Rush and Thin Lizzy and all of these bands, Van Halen, and nobody wanted to play. They all wanted to play funk and R&B, and I was like, all right.
You should have called me and Mike, man. What's up?
So I was like, all right, I'll for now, I'll entertain you guys with learning how to play everything, which was the rhythm section of funk music, from Parliament, Funkadelic, all the way to Sly and the Family Stone. I was picking up everything.
Cool.
But my true heart belongs to rock. So I learned all the solos from Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven, Wild Cherry guitar solos, Rush. I did everything. And everybody was looking at me, that's amazing. But we can't do that stuff. We don't do that kind of music. I was like, yeah, but one day I am going to do that kind of music.
So here's what I learned. I was working at Guitar Center for a couple years. And that's where, for me, the cultures started to mix, right? I learned that people are people. So when the black guys would come in, they would want to know what I knew just as much as I would want to know what they knew about theirs.
Exactly.
So I wanted to know about Motown and R&B and rap, and they wanted to know the guys who had your interest, right? This is what fascinated me. I'm like, man, people are people. People get pigeonholed by the media, right? Black people listen to rap, white people listen to country or rock, and
that's weird.
Right?
No, that's not the way life is. So these guys would come in and we'd start talking, and they would be just as fascinated with what I knew as I was with what they knew. That's why I asked the question, where did your heart lie? Because people would be fascinated that, all along you liked that sound of Van Halen and AC/DC, and because
Rush and Zeppelin,
Rush, because you heard what we heard. It's not just straight ahead rock. Van Halen is a swing. AC/DC is a swing. People don't realize till they sit down to try and play it. It's like, wow, this is harder than it looks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me tell you this story.
All right.
I walked away. I did my last rap record with Too Short and Jazzy Faye. And I walked away. I was completely done with rap. They asked me to promote it. I didn't even want to promote it. I'm like, you guys do whatever. And then I got an offer when I was with Rap-A-Lot. I had another artist come to me, and everybody was throwing the kitchen sink at me to come back to produce. And I was like, nope, I'm done. What I did was I gave them all of my files of all of the the rap stuff. You can have it. Take it. I didn't even ask for no money. Just take it.
Wow.
That's crazy.
2 days later, I was stuck in the house, and I picked up
Boy,
my guitar and I started playing.
cool.
This is a true story.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the song was Cheap Trick. I
Yeah,
Want
right
You to
on.
Want Me.
Dude, great band, great song.
So I
Underrated. One of the
started
most
playing
underrated
it. Then
bands
I
ever. Yeah.
want you to
You
want me.
want
And
me. I need you
I
to
had
need
my whole
me.
studio set up. I said, well, why
Okay.
not? Let me record this.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
recorded the vocals, the guitars, the
Right
bass,
on.
the drums, everything. I
Nice.
had
Yeah,
everything in there. I played the drums, I played the bass,
yeah.
and I had a whole complete song.
Right on.
The next day, I heard the full song and I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. I was like, I got it. I can still do this. I
Right
want to
on,
do
man.
rock. And
Right on.
because I did that Trick song, I
Yeah.
went in and I recorded all brand new rock stuff. And and I didn't even be honest with you, I didn't even have the proper guitar. I think I used a bass uh for some rhythm sections of the guitar because I had
Really.
the software to change the bass into a guitar.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And I just went berserk. So I knew
Nice.
then that I
Yeah.
wanted to go back to guitars because my last production in rap, I influenced guitars in my rap production.
Oh, right on.
I wanted to have some kind of live guitars going on in my rap.
And that's what those
So
guys wanted that were coming into
yeah,
Guitar
and
Center.
that's
They're
why they
looking
were
for
coming
guitar
to me because
players.
most of my stuff was based on live music,
Mm.
music
Yeah.
and instrumentation.
What year
So
was
when I
this,
did
Lemoyne?
that song,
Yeah. What year was this, Limon? Limon?
this was 2008 or 9. No,
Okay.
2009.
Okay.
And I went into the studio the next day and I cut this song called Life Goes On because I knew when I did the Cheap Trick, I knew I could do my own music. So I
Okay.
wrote Life Goes On and I played it for this other guy. And at the time I was seeing this girl, she heard the song and she took the song. She said, Lemoyne, this is a great song. You need to really do something with
Mm.
this. And I was like, oh, I'm just messing around with it. She
Yeah.
took it and gave it to a radio station, wasn't even mixed or anything.
Oh,
And they played it on the radio.
right on.
Wow.
And when they called me, the radio station called me with, this is beautiful. We're going to have this song on regular rotation. And I was like, oh my God, can you not do that yet? Let me go and mix it and have it properly done, and then I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I paid for the song to get mixed and everything, and I sent it to them, and then they played it every
Nice.
day. I said, okay, I'm putting a band together. I put a band together, and the rest is history.
Right
And
on, man.
I've been making rock songs ever since.
And that was them. What's the band's name again?
State of Grace
State
with
of
an
Grace.
8.
Yep. With an 8.
ST8.
Okay.
Yeah.
State.
And the
Okay.
last song I did with them was a song called Chasing Time.
Okay. Well, that's why when I hit State of Grace on YouTube, I couldn't find you, but now it's State ST8 of Grace. Okay. Cool.
ST8,
Cool,
the number
cool,
8.
Cool.
That was my son's
Yep, I got you.
idea. He was like,
No,
no,
that's cool.
Dad, change
That's
it
cool.
to put an 8 there. And man, we toured everywhere.
cool.
We opened
Right
up for a
on.
lot of big bands. Against Me, George Clinton. We did a lot of
Wow.
stuff. I had
Cool.
no idea that the band, especially Life Goes On, 15
Mhm.
Minutes of Fame,
Yeah.
and I think there was one more song, the song we did with Queen, and it was another song. All 4 of those songs really took us to new heights.
Nice. Right
But
on.
then, once again, I started like feeling like, I'm doing too much because I write, produce, sing all the instruments, and people got used to it. People would get used to me just doing everything. And I
Right.
got to the point where I can do this myself. I don't need a whole
Yeah.
band no more.
Yeah.
And management was like, yo, man, you need to stop hiding behind a band, man. You need to just come out front. So I said, okay, I'm going to take a chance.
Yeah.
So I did.
And he never looked back.
I never looked back. And here we are today.
As far as singing goes, is that what you're saying, being a front man?
Yeah.
Okay.
They wanted me to be the front man.
I just wanted to make
State
that
of
clear to the
Grace.
people that are listening. The 3 of us are musicians. We've been
Mhm.
doing this our whole lives. We can
Yep.
talk our own language.
Right.
He's talking about, I came out front and I became the leader of the band.
Yeah. And remind you, I was the leader of our funk band when we were kids.
Okay.
And we won all the state championship awards, even in Chicago.
Wow.
And I had no idea that once I got in front of an audience, that they would tell me, my band, my family, everybody would say, you would get possessed. It's like you don't even know what you're doing when you're up
I'm
there.
a completely different
yeah,
person when I'm on
agreed.
stage.
100%, man.
Chris will attest to that. I'm a pretty mellow guy out off the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know
I
what
have
happens
to.
up there.
I'm really shy most of the time, but
Yeah.
man, I saw
yeah.
a tape of what we perform, especially like even with some of the shows that I've done, and they're true. They're telling the truth. I get possessed when I'm on stage. It's like,
I'm glad there's video evidence because he shared what he had left of, the shows that we recorded, and some of those scenes I see, I'm like, who is that guy?
Yeah. Yeah, but see, man, I'm the front man too, so I understand.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but you have
to.
Because,
tell you, my
band,
in the background would be like, it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to do tonight.
Yeah, oh yeah,
because they never know what I'm going to do.
No, and see, my difference was with when we would go live, we got so comfortable with our music because we rehearsed so much that they would follow me going off of my little improv tangents when.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And back when we were doing it, nobody was improvising. So I had this weird thing I did. I called spoken singing, where there were songs that I would kind of sing to it. But again, because of how we wrote and everything, and we were so tight as a group, it didn't matter where I went; they would follow me. So, but you and I can attest to the fact you have to engage the crowd. The crowd has to go through you before they go back to those guys. So if you're not doing your job, it's not going to go past you into the whole musicianship and the whole product itself. It falls flat.
Well, let me ask you, since you know where I am, because you do the same thing I do.
Mm-hmm.
One time I did a show, and I never forget this. It must have been like 1,000 people out there.
Okay.
And I rehearsed with the band one time.
Wow.
Never did that before. I know I do not like that. I like rehearsing constantly until I get on stage. But things were so crazy. I had to fly in and the whole thing. So we did the show.
Okay.
And has this ever happened to you when you're performing? Because you're such a perfectionist when you're on stage. I know how to reach my fans.
Yeah.
But the music behind me, I'm listening to these guys and I want them to play the song the way I wrote the song, the way the song should be. And I don't mind them changing it and channeling it into whatever they want it to be, but it still has to sound good.
Agreed.
Do you pay attention, even while you're in the middle of a song, to what everybody's doing in the background? And I've done that a few times, and I go, what are they playing back there?
I was blessed with the fact with Nemesis anyway that we did so much rehearsing and so much writing and whatnot that I would follow stuff that Scott did on the drums for cues. I would follow stuff that Rick did on bass for cues and stuff Mike did, especially coming in and out of solos and stuff. So I would bring a lyric sheet to Mike and say, here, this is what I got. Okay. So I wrote a song called Vision, right? So I gave it to Mike. Mike took the Vision lyrics and the innate ability he and I have, he could take the emotional content from my lyrics without knowing what the content was and pairing it perfectly. So it was just a dynamic that he and I had. So then
I'm a good channeler, Lemoyne.
Right. So we would recreate the basic melody from that, and then bring it to Scott and Rick in a practice, and then Rick's bass would change the dynamic of it. Scott's drumming would change the dynamic of it. So then there'd be certain parts of every song we would do to where I would come in after Scott hit a certain beat on the drum. Or I would wait, and it wasn't even so much the normal count stuff. It was just different elements from the verse to the chorus, or the verse to the bridge to the chorus. So I get what you're saying. Yeah. So I would listen
it
to
doesn't throw you off in the middle because I'll stop.
Here's a good way to put it, Lemoyne. Not to interrupt you, but this is going to fascinate you as a songwriter and a musician. Basically, what he's saying is like "Free Man" is a 3 minute and 24-second song, right?
Yes.
We could turn that into a 9-minute song if we wanted to.
True.
And all Scott would have to do is one quick little fill that would trigger Chris's brain to go, okay, we're going back into the song now.
Right.
We had little magical things built into our songs like that so that we could either shorten them, extend them, do whatever we needed to do. So, like, he was almost like the general, the point. He was the point guard of the band, right?
Yeah, he's the man. He's the one that he's the guy with the stick in his hand doing like this.
But we were blessed, and Chris always gives everybody else props for this, and so do I. We were blessed that the three of us looked to him to be the leader in that respect. You know,
Right.
it wasn't like nobody had an ego in that band.
No,
and
I
that's
never
what
had-
it takes
yeah,
to
yeah,
have
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think that's the only way you can have a jam band or improvise on stage, which we love to do, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never had lead singer disease.
Yes.
Me neither. Me neither.
yeah.
The only thing that used to irritate me most of it, especially with all the bands I played with, they all do like this. What are we gonna do next? You know, and I go, okay, you guys got to, you know, involve, put more input in it so we could, you know, vibe off of each other. Everybody
Yes,
looked
sir.
for me for answers all the time.
Yeah,
That's where
yeah,
Chris took over.
yeah.
You know, what are
and
we
I
going
was
to do
like,
next? He would be like, let's just fucking play, man.
Yeah,
Just,
I
Yeah.
just that was my answer. Let's just fucking jam, man. Who cares what we play? Let's go.
That's
Let's
that's
just do it.
and that's usually the key point, you know,
Yeah.
just jam and let's just have some fun. And like I said, you know, this new band that I'm working with, I'm very, very, these guys are pros, man. They know exactly
on.
what to do, how to do it. And I don't even pretty much have to even play. They play that well, you know, and I could play with them or not play and still feel the drive from the songs, and it motivates me. And that's all I was looking for, really, to gel with a good band that I
Yeah.
know that can help excel and bring me out where I could, you know, be more focused with the fans and the audience.
So here's a question for you, because you touched on this with your home studio and stuff and playing every instrument when you laid down the "I Want You to Want Me" from Cheap Trick, right? So with every instrument you play, you self-taught with everything that you play?
you took my,
Everything,
that was my question. Thank you.
everything.
Everything.
I played live. I played drums. I
Yeah.
played bass.
Yeah,
I played guitar.
yeah,
I play congas, any type of
Yeah.
percussions.
okay.
And I do all lead vocals. I got a 3-point octave range voice. I can go high,
Nice.
low, and mid.
Right on.
And I write all of the songs.
That's
That's
awesome,
cool.
man. Very
Piano?
impressive.
Piano, keyboards?
Piano too.
Okay.
Piano.
Right.
I taught myself how to play piano for that started when I started producing
Okay.
rap.
Okay.
That was the work instrument, because, you know, everything was centered around the piano. So I
Okay, yes,
really
yeah.
had to learn how to play that.
So here's the thing. But here's I want to go down the rap path because I've never been a big rap fan. Just not my thing. So this may come across as a completely ignorant question, or it may be
Okay.
something that's completely enlightening. So, from a music standpoint, instrumentation wise, what is typically guitar? Like you talked about bringing guitars into rap, right? And
Yes.
so are you talking everything with a band would have? Because most of the rap artists you see now when they go on stage, right, they have the tracks behind them. They're just on stage by themselves.
That's true.
You know,
Yes.
so you don't see the musicianship part of it, right?
Right.
So you're in the studio. You mentioned Tupac, so I'm assuming you did something with Tupac.
I did. I was getting ready to work with Tupac before he
Okay.
died.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's right. So you're in the studio with a rap artist. What's the music behind what they're doing? Because all I hear in rap is the
Samples
vocals.
and scratches.
Right.
Okay. What I usually do, the only thing I incorporate that's live when I was doing towards the end of my rap career
Yeah.
production was mostly guitars, bass, and some
Okay.
drums. But
Okay.
most of the drums was always sampled in drum
Okay.
machine,
Okay.
you know, most of the time. I
And
mean,
that shows
maybe
right.
I
And
would
that-
try something different occasionally, but most of the time it was drum machine.
Okay, so
But-
with the drum machine, is that because then you don't have to worry about the human element as far as the
Nope.
timing goes?
Exactly.
Okay,
And
okay.
rappers don't care about, you know, live musicians. They just want to get the beat off
Yeah.
so they can do their rap over it.
Okay.
So that was simple for me.
Okay,
But being eclectic and being different and trying to come up with different styles,
sure.
you know, I didn't want to sound like everybody else. So
Yeah.
I incorporated live bass playing over the drum tracks.
Really?
And then I would, because it was live,
Okay.
you know, and
Yeah.
if there was a mistake, maybe, but in my tracks, you would never hear the same repetitive bass line.
Okay.
This is towards the end. And when I
Okay.
started, yes, I'd take a mood bass or something and record it, 4 beats of it and copy and paste it.
Yeah.
Song done.
Okay.
Then I
wow.
said, that's what everybody else do. I want to do something
Yeah.
different. So I started
Nice.
playing from the top of the song to the end with all these notations that would change the dynamic of the bass line straight to the end. And I like that. So I
Yeah.
said, okay, I can do the same thing with guitar. So I do a strum or
That's
wah wah
awesome.
or
Yeah.
something. And they go, oh man, that's too loud. Can you cut it up? And I would play live and and chop it up and put it in the drum
Yeah.
machine to make it sound like
Okay.
it was simple.
But you're
That's
still getting that
badass,
human
man.
element, right?
Yeah, it
That's
still has the
badass.
human element in it. But
That's
yeah,
cool.
sometimes I would sample myself and put it in the drum machine so it can still have that rap element.
Wow.
And that's what everybody liked, because I could play any instrument, any
Right.
instrument.
So as a producer, you're injecting these musical instruments into the song that you're producing to make it stand out even more than it's already trying. Because rap's like the rap music industry is everything like rock, and you gotta have something's got to stand out. You got to have the hook. Something's got to break you because, 1,000 people want to be a rap star, right? So
Exactly.
What's that one thing that's going to take you over the top, right? So if you're making that much fuller of a sound behind the rap artist, I think that would give them an edge when it came to airplay and popularity and grabbing the hook and stuff, right?
Yes, exactly.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yep. And when I did that, it was so different and unique.
Yeah.
They would pass it on, and that's how I got signed to Rap A Lot, because they would pass it on to other rappers. And man, where'd you get that beat from? And then it just would just spread and then go.
Who ran that label? Who ran that label you were signed to?
Who ran it?
Yeah.
Which I was signed to multiple labels. Which one?
The one that you just mentioned.
Rap A Lot.
Oh, Rap A Lot?
Yeah. I've heard that name.
Yeah, Rap A Lot is a big name, a big record company. Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm just seeing them last night. I forgot his name right now.
That's cool.
But, he's really good. He knows how to pick most of the rappers, and he pretty much called me and asked me to. We had a big meeting over the last artist, and this was during the time when I was getting ready to work with R. Kelly's brother. He was a rapper.
Okay.
And we never got around to doing. He was probably, I would say, my last rapper that I was getting ready to work with.
Never heard of R. Kelly having a brother who was wanting to be a rapper.
Yeah. Yes, you never will. But the guy is fantastic. He can't shine past his brother. But
that's a terrible shadow to follow too.
It is, because everybody has a right to be their own individual, and that's super sad to me that one person can ruin it that bad for somebody else. But you're right, he did.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like Michael Jordan's kids. None of them play basketball because how could you? How could you live up to your father?
Well, they all tried.
No, it's impossible.
Yeah.
They tried, but they failed. But it's just, LeBron's kids can live up to him. They just got to flop better, But it's hard to live up to somebody with that magnitude. Like Jacob Dylan, Bob Dylan's kid. He's good in his own right, but he'll never reach the level that Bob did.
You only get that one.
Yeah.
You talking about Dylan, Bob Dylan's son from
Jacob Dylan.
Wallflowers.
Wallflowers.
Yeah, the Wallflowers.
Yeah.
He's a great singer.
He is, absolutely. But he'll never.
He's the son of Bob Dylan. So.
Right. You can never aspire. Like if Mick Jagger had a kid in rock and roll, it's not happening.
And as good
he's
as
got a kid, but he's not in rock and roll.
And as good as he is, Wolfgang Van Halen is in the same light, right? We only get one Eddie Van Halen per generation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's his name? Wolfgang?
Yep, Wolfgang.
Yeah. He's fantastic.
He's fantastic. Mammoth. Yeah. That's the name of his band.
Mammoth. Yep. Mammoth. Yeah. And he owns his space. And he's good at, like, I didn't give him credibility when they first came out because I, like everybody else, thought, riding the coattails of Eddie. Correct. And then they opened up for one of my favorite bands, Alter Bridge, and I was blown away. I was blown away by his stage presence.
Alter Bridge is a nice band too.
Alter Bridge is fantastic, man. And the nicest, most humble, down to earth guys you'll ever meet. In at least, just amazing. But the way he commanded the stage and the presence that he had, and his engagement with the crowd, I was just like, holy shit! He's carving his own slot in this industry, and he's doing it without emulating his father. Now he had a couple
Exactly,
parts,
and that was one thing that impressed me. I was like,
Yes.
he's
Me too.
really doing it without, no help
Yeah.
from his dad or nothing,
No.
and he found
No.
his own sound and everything. I was very proud of him for that.
Yep. He had a
lot
couple
of
moments.
people,
A couple
they
moments on
can't
stage.
get past their dads
No,
or
exactly.
anybody that's in the game. You can't pass them.
And like
Right, 'cause
he plays every instrument. That's
Yeah.
also impressive.
Yeah, and he's self-taught.
Yep.
Yeah, he's self-taught.
And
His dad helped him a little bit.
He
Right.
said his dad
Teaching
was
him.
the worst teacher ever, though.
What?
Yeah.
That's on record.
Yeah.
His dad was the worst teacher?
Yeah, he said my dad's one of those guys that can do it. And yes, he's Eddie Van Halen, but I'm telling you right now, he's one of the worst teachers ever because he can't slow things down. He only plays it at one speed.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to either keep up or
Shredding things.
Right. And
I don't
Wolfgang,
take away from shredders. I think shredders are that's cool with them.
Listen.
I can if I wanted to, but
so can I. There's a place for it.
yeah,
Right.
I'm deep. When I play my solos are like spiritual.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to
want them
hit
to
one
mean
note
something.
that's gonna mean something.
Yep.
BB King
really get
means
into the soul.
BB King means more to me than Yngwie Malmsteen, right?
Yeah.
Or Joe Satriani.
Then you know what I'm talking about.
I can listen to BB play all day long. I can listen to Stevie Ray play all day long because Stevie Ray knew when to play fast. But when he hit you with that note that didn't belong there, you're like, oh my God, where'd that come from? And then he would just hang on it. Like, why do you do that?
BB is another one that taught me resilience and feelings when you're playing. My dad used to tell me, listen to BB King. And I was like, I don't, he's a blues guy. I don't want to hear him. I heard him, the thrill is gone.
Yep.
When
It's
he
the
did that,
space
those
in
notes,
between, right?
oh my
It's
God. I
waiting
was
for
like,
that
oh.
right spot.
I was like, okay, I see what they're talking about.
Yes.
Yep.
I was very impressed.
one thing-
and I studied him too.
The one thing I was going to mention earlier when I was at the Alter Bridge show with Wolfgang Van Halen, he only did the Eddie Pickin thing once in the whole show.
Oh, at the fretboard tapping?
Only
Yeah.
once. Only once. Yeah,
I
only
know
one
exactly
time.
what you're talking about.
Only one time. And so that I thought was cool too because he really wasn't trying to be his father.
No.
He was just wanting to be himself, which was cool, man. It was really cool.
man.
So let's dive more into your life resume, Lemoyne. I want to
Okay.
know. I want to know how old were you when you first got to the level to where you were being paid significantly for either performing or producing, and what did that look like? Was that the rap world?
Yeah,
Okay.
it started in the rap world. And by the way,
Yeah.
the guy, the president of Rap a Lot is Jay Prince. That's
Okay.
his name.
Okay.
What up, Jay Prince? Shout out.
Yeah. My career picked up. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I was doing music in plays.
Okay.
And after a little bit of time I spent in that, after my family, my brothers, because I did a band with my brothers called Generation,
Right.
and then we did another band after that, going into the '80s called the Fascination,
Okay.
and we scored maybe about 3 hits, like literal
Nice.
record company hits and everything.
Okay.
And
Nice.
then I got out of it, and then I started producing with some of the guys that was in the band, and that's how we started producing.
Oh, gotcha.
My first real job came when I was in college, Davenport College at the time, and I got a phone call, and they said that they wanted me to come to Chicago, and I was like, for what? It's like,
Yeah.
man, we need you here, and I was like, I spoke to them, and little that I knew it was Mr. Lee, and they wanted me to work with R. Kelly.
Okay.
Wow.
R. Kelly needs a team of producers and some musicians, and so I said, okay. So I packed my bags and I moved to Chicago, and I
Okay.
went to work with R. Kelly at the time. And 2 years I spent learning how to program and make beats and all of that, because like I said, I come from a musician's background
Yeah.
where everything was live.
Right.
So I had to learn how to contain all of that in machines.
Gotcha.
And being around these guys, they taught me how to do all of that. And I said, well, I got to be different than what everybody else is doing. So I spent days and nights trying to perfect my craft all the time.
Yeah.
And that's when I started getting paid working for R. Kelly. And then it went from there, because I left R. Kelly and I started working for Michael Bivins from
Bill DeVoe. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And his company, same thing. I spent a year with him doing the same thing, you know, making beats for his artists.
Okay.
Then I left Bivins and went to Motown, same thing, a year with them.
Okay.
Then it just spiraled into other things with you know, I worked with Londell McMillan, who was managing Prince and Stevie Wonder at the time.
Okay. Nice.
And you know, we formed this connection, and I started working with him for like 2 or 3 years, and he brought me a lot of clients. And that's why I said this was during the time where I was literally about to work with Notorious Big before he got killed.
Okay.
And Faith Evans, and doing all these beats, you know, I just learned how to do my craft where everybody was coming to me.
That's cool,
based
man.
on you know, my experience.
Sure.
And then from there, I started making all this money doing all of this, just producing stuff. And then I got an offer from working with another artist that took me to Rap-A-Lot. And at that time, when I started working for Rap-A-Lot, I did a 10-year contract with them. Didn't know it, but I did a 10-year contract with them. And during the process of that, you know, things started drifting and slowing. So I started spreading my music around.
Sure.
Working with Murder Inc. during the time. I did something with Murder Inc., RCA, and I met Atron, which was Tupac's manager.
Okay.
And we were talking about doing some stuff with Tupac, but then he got killed right after that. So, you know, the whole rap game just gave me a bad feeling.
Yeah.
You know, the longevity of it, the safetyness of it.
Yeah.
It just, I didn't feel comfortable doing it no more.
I got you.
And,
I got
you know, the bigger I got in producing and making beats, the less I wanted to do it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. The less I wanted to do it. You know, I'm not gonna lie, it made me a lot of money. Lots of money. I was able to buy stuff and do stuff for my families and everything, but I just didn't like it anymore.
I hear you.
Just, you know, it just wasn't for me. And then
when you turn on,
go ahead.
I should say, so when you turn on the radio, you turn on Sirius XM, whatever you choose to listen to music, how often do you hear samples of your stuff in the music?
Oh, man, I hear lots of, that's the beauty of it. You know, I can go back to YouTube, and I can go back and listen to a lot of stuff that I produce, and it makes me feel good. You know,
that's
I got a lot of that stuff.
Right?
Yeah, and I still get checks for it today, till this day. You know? And awesome. It's not as big as it was back then, but I still get checks, you know?
But still,
Let me ask you this, Lemoyne. The behind the scenes, for me, the fascination, I was like a little kid at Christmas the first time I saw a recording studio. Just all the lights and the, you know, like the little kid in me came out, all the knobs and the...
Oh, yes.
Like, I got it. Is that
you what know I know that feeling, what you're talking about.
Is that what made you want to do it? Because I think you either have it or you don't, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. You know, when they talk about you got that it thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's what people used to say to me. You got that it thing. And I go, what the fuck is a it?
Yeah.
What is a it?
Exactly.
I just like making music, you know? But
yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of like measured it as like the it thing being maybe you would dedicate your entire life to it and you don't give a shit about nothing else but that.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe. That's how I put it. You know, I don't know.
Well, like Chris gave me a huge compliment earlier today, you know, that I have my own style. And I'm super proud of that because I can't play a bunch of cover songs, right? That wasn't my thing. I wanted to figure out what the guitar meant to me. You said it earlier, spiritually. That's what made me understand what my place here on earth was, right? When I learned how to do that and make people happy doing it, I'm like, well, that's cool. You know, this must be my thing, you know?
This is beautiful that we're doing this guitar talk. You guys making me when I start my next album, I want you guys on my album, my next one.
I'm down.
We want to do it.
Stay in connection with each other because I want to hear this. I got to hear you guys play, man.
I want to talk beats with you because that's the part I suck at. So this is beautiful for me too.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Lemoyne, he's been harping on me forever to get musicians on the show. I'm like, dude, I'm trying. So when she reached out to us, it was just like, yes, right on. And
such a spiritual connection before we ever met, man.
Yeah,
just,
because it's
awesome.
we're all old. You got to be for what we always wanted to do, and you're still doing it, which kudos to you. Your soul has to be so old. You have to have roots that just ground you to be.
That's true.
Because
true.
Because we all know this, and the lead singers for sure. We're walking on stage in front of people that don't know us.
Yes.
We're walking in front of a crowd,
true.
right? And the crowd has to like
with
us
the arrogance to think that we belong there, right?
Yes, without being an arrogant, narcissistic asshat.
That's the key,
right? Because then you don't. I
don't think with lead singers they'll never get past that. That's just a lead singer.
Right, but it's rare to get one that doesn't have lead singer disease. Which
I was lucky. Chris never made us feel like this is my band, and without us, we're not, or without me, we're not going anywhere.
I agree with you on that, and even with my band now, even when we play, I always said, "Hey, look, we're a band. Let's all work together as a team."
Yes.
I'm not that guy. Look, you do it this way, or you're going to get fired, or no. I don't do all that. I never done.
But it doesn't serve the purpose.
But here's where I'll give my drummer and I credit. We founded that band. Chris joined shortly after we founded the band. We were smart enough to know what people related to, right? They related to him because he was the one that they heard from first. Hey, it's Friday night at the Mason Jar in Phoenix, Arizona. How we doing, right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's what they saw. So everybody gravitates towards the singer. We as musicians allowed him the opportunity and the affordability to do his job without thinking he was trying to be an egomaniac, right?
Right.
He was a huge personality on stage every night. He just was.
Yeah. But then in everyday life, you just, I'm just a social butterfly. But I had the presence on stage, the Iron Dog, and we'll explain that some other time, but that was my persona. That was my persona on stage. I mean, there's one shot of the Mason Jar where I reached up and grabbed the light truss and was swinging on it, and I looked down at Mike, and Mike looks over at the whatever guy over there, and then he's like, "Get off of that." I'm like, "My bad," but
get off of that.
It was just, but that was the thing is like you step on stage, you have to. It's like kind of like how
it's like a possession, man. I don't know. It's just
you got to turn it on. You got to be able, yeah. It just turns on once you whatever you do. Like I sell houses, so when my phone rings, I can turn on the real estate guy like that. No matter what my day is like, I can go, "Hey, this is Chris Edelman, real estate guy. Good afternoon." But so it's the same concept with what we do as musicians. You walk on that stage, that's it. This is the moment in time. You only have one chance to be in front of this group of people at this point in time in life, and you either knock it out of the ballpark or you fall flat on your ass, and that's going to determine your trajectory for the next show you do.
Yep.
That is true. That is true.
The guy that taught me to play guitar, Lemoyne, he kind of said exactly what Chris said. When he was teaching me to be a lead guitar player, he says, Eddie Van Halen described it best. It's like falling down the stairs. There's no real right or wrong way to do it as long as you land on your feet when it's over, right?
Right.
There you go. That's a great analysis. I like that.
Yeah.
And the next time you listen to a Van Halen solo, you'll listen to it in a different light. I did ever since I've heard him say that.
You're right about that. That's a good way of doing that. I mean, I never really analyzed it like that in my head, but that's accurate.
The other famous quote that he's got that always stuck with me in my head as a player when I was told I was doing something right or wrong, either way, I'm like, Eddie said it best. You got 8 notes. Actually, you have 7 notes in the octave, right?
Yeah.
So you have 8 notes. How you mix them up is your business. There are no rules, right? If it
it's
sounds
how
good,
you do it.
If it sounds good, it is good. That always stuck with me.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yep. So,
man, this is one of these most different interviews I've ever done, and I like talking with the musicians, man. So just to let you know, if you guys need me to do a show, I would love to come out and do a show with you guys, man.
Right on. Well, see, here's the fun thing. I'm in Arizona. Mike's in Illinois.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
are you at?
I'm in Illinois right now.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just in Arizona. I got to go
Oh.
back again.
Well, when you come to Arizona, reach out, man. We'll go to dinner or something.
You got it. That's exactly what I'll do.
Where are you at in Illinois, Lemoyne?
I'm in the south side of Chicago.
Oh, man. So, yeah, so we're like 2.5 hours apart. I'm in Pontiac, if you know where
Oh,
that's
yeah, I know
at.
where that is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know exactly what it is.
We're world famous for our prison.
Wow.
That's about all we got going on here. And
That's
a lot
all right.
a lot of cornfields.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Some of these conventions and some of these outdoor performances and stuff
Sure.
that they have in Chicago. I just got here, so I'm trying to jump on wherever they want me to play at. So that's what they're trying to figure out now, where they're going to place me.
That's cool, man. So what's your world look like right now as far as you're working with a new band, you said? Is it still State of Grace?
No. This is just Lemoyne Alexander.
Okay.
And I have a backup band now.
Gotcha.
behind.
Okay. And
And I
what do you-
just finished the album too. So
Okay, so when's that album drop?
we just found out the new single drops on July 6th.
Okay.
And the album follows it. So maybe about a week after the single comes out, the album comes out.
Okay.
Awesome.
And
So it's all in July.
okay. Are you doing this all on your own now? Self-production, self-distribution,
Everything.
self-label?
The first
Okay,
album
cool.
was all me. The second
Okay.
album was all me. And the
Cool.
third album is all
What's this album called, Lemoyne?
me. Alone.
Alone?
Alone.
Yes.
I like it.
Lemoyne Alexander, Alone. And is it
Alone.
so did you create your own label?
No. The company is called Wicked Entertainment.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So Wicked Entertainment's the label and the distribution?
Yes.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we're dealing with some new distributors right now as we speak.
Cool. So for the people that don't understand the whole concept of music distribution or stuff, give us a little insight of the struggles with that now versus 20 years ago.
Oh, 20 years ago it was
Great
totally
question.
different.
Thank you, Mike.
It's nothing like it is now.
Please
Right.
kind of break that down.
Yeah,
so
break
when
it
you
down,
got
though.
into the business, how you got paid and what your life was
Okay.
like, and now what your life is like. That's a great question, Chris.
Okay,
Thanks,
that's a good question, and I'll try to be as persistent with this and short.
Yeah, that's cool. We got all the time in the
Well-
world, man.
You're fine.
When you're a producer, artist,
Yep.
during the good days,
Okay.
they give you a budget.
Yeah.
Sometimes those budgets could be ranging from 200,000 to 9 to a million,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Now, out of those budgets, you have to pay for the studio.
Okay.
Those budgets, you have to pay for studio. You have to pay for videos. They're
Yep.
charging you for
Yeah,
everything that they've
yeah.
given you,
Yeah.
including your advance money. Sometimes they don't charge you for the advance money, but at some point, you got to pay it back.
It's not much
mean,
different
yeah.
to going to a bank and getting a loan, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So with all of the money that they've given you on top, they have to use their own money to promote you.
Right.
And that's a whole different budget.
Yeah.
So you look at what your worth is from your album sales back then.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, when your album sales are growing and growing and growing, they're going to make their money back.
Yes.
Now, if you're the writer, you're going to make the money. If you're also a publisher publishing your music, which no label is going to let you completely take full
Right. Of
publishing,
course.
they got to split it with you.
Right.
You're going to get paid.
Yeah.
Now, most producers, they're getting paid behind because they're making the songs. The artist, if you get an artist and they're really pretty much singing what you make them sing
Right.
and what you write for them, they're not getting paid. The
Okay,
only time they get paid is when they go on the road to perform the song.
Right. So let's break
Yes.
let's break it down like this real quick. You got $1. You make $1. And out of that $1, the label gets how much?
The label gets honestly out of that $1 about 75 cents.
Okay, so you have a quarter left, and out of that quarter left, you're paying the writer.
You have to pay the writer. So
Right.
by the time you get paid, you
Right.
probably got about 10 cents.
Right. So out of 25 cents, left over from that dollar, which is I've lived that with when Council was signed with, this is a band after Mike and I signed with Universal Records, a little subsidy Platinum Plus Records. I've never seen a dime because they they take it all.
But that's the truth.
Right. Snoop Dogg
today,
came out. Right. And Snoop Dogg came out recently, not to interject, that he had, what was it, 1 billion downloads, Mike, not too long ago? And he made like $40,000. He's like, where's my money?
He made $34,000 on 1 billion downloads.
Yeah. And that's what I want people to understand. So that's the dollar breakdown. So that's the dollar breakdown. So continue on your path of educating the world, Lemoyne.
Oh man, let me tell you something. the biggest ripoff to me
He
has
just
always
explained
been,
the good days.
Right. I know.
Well, yeah, the good days was if for a producer, he can make a lot of money. A producer he's the one that's gonna always make the money.
Right.
Because he's the one that's behind the scenes making the music, making everything happen.
Right.
Artists, no. But today, now we're talking Spotify and all these other outlets. Where Spotify came from, I don't even know. All I know was they just decided to form a company to take artists and exploit them and get paid off of them.
Did Lars not try and warn us about this during the Napster days?
Yes, he did.
Can you explain a little bit about that real quick for the people who still hate Lars?
Yes, Lars. He to me he's my hero because he did a lot to teach us.
Yeah.
That that's not fair. They're ripping us off. People work hard to make the music.
Yep.
Nobody listens.
This is how you support your family, right?
Yep.
Yes, this is how we support our family. A prime example, the Queen record, that was the one I was telling you, where we got about 2 million on Spotify. 2 million.
Okay.
I think it's 2 million and some change or whatever.
Yeah, which is
impressive.
impressive.
I got a check. Literally, the check came back for $600.
Yeah,
2 million plays.
Yeah,
$600.
$600. Now back in the day when you started.
Now back in the day,
2 million
you sold a record,
double platinum.
If you sold 2 million records, you got damn near $1 million.
Right.
For that record.
Right. See, that's what I wanted people to understand, the difference between now and then and what Napster did to the culture of music.
That's why
because
it's a great question.
when we got signed with Universal, it was on that cusp. Everything was going away from the label backing up, and it was jumping into the whole online Spotify, Napster, Apple Music, because it was 2008 when that was released. So, and it wasn't. And again, it was the last band I was in. It wasn't Mike and I, because Mike and I is the best band I've ever been in. But I could tell by just the label itself, they were just in it for this. They could give a fuck about the product.
Nobody gave a fuck.
No, they could, like the people behind the scenes, the producer. We had Tony Migliore, a producer, which his claim to fame was he plays the piano and keyboard on Bye Bye Miss American Pie, Don McLean. It's his keyboard pianist, right?
Yep.
Robert Metzger, the guy that was behind the label, was tied to Elvis in some way, shape, and form. But he was just a shoe salesman, piece of shit. Like just, I mean, used car salesman. Just like you could just tell, right? And so I don't. The experience was great. I recorded in Gravity Studios in Nashville, which was Dolly Parton's studio. That was something that not many people can say. We were in Brentwood, Nashville, or Brentwood, Tennessee. Alan Jackson and George was it George Strait? Or I think George Strait's studio over there. Chelsea Music Group, right? I mean, it was, the things we did were cool, and the experience was great. And I'll never regret doing that stuff, but it gave me insight to the bullshit. So I like how that's why I asked that question, because you just kind of nailed it on hammer on the head, right? 20 years ago, you sell 2 million records, you're making $1 million.
Yeah, you're making $1 million.
Today
Snoop said it best.
Yeah.
Snoop said it best. If you pay attention to what he said, he's like, how the hell can we make a living?
Yeah.
When companies like Spotify and all these other streaming services take our music and they get paid and give us this much and say, okay.
They're making $12 a month off 200 million subscribers.
Yeah. That's insane.
And taking the royalties.
Right.
Do the math.
Yeah. Now see.
And taking the artist royalties. That's a huge point.
Now for me, Lemoyne, Okay, I'm the guy that I buy the entire album on Apple Music. I don't buy single songs on Spotify. If you're on Apple Music, I'll go download your entire album.
Yes, it is. It's on Apple.
Right, because to me that I don't know how much of that you get from that, but I'd rather do that than subscribe and just be able to listen for free, because I know how hard it is to write music.
Yes,
and,
I think that's beautiful. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
You know,
you're welcome.
you go to iTunes. To me, is like
Yeah,
a record store to me.
yeah, exactly.
Yes. You know, and that's what we used to. Me and you and Mike.
Yeah.
We were influenced by going to the record store. We hear what we hear. We like it. We pay for it, and we leave.
Yep.
Take it home.
Yep. Tower Records, man.
Well, since we're the same age, let me tell you a funny story about the record store. I went there one day and I'm leafing through the records and I'm like, look at that. This is the coolest. This is going to be the coolest heavy metal band I've ever seen in my life.
I've heard this story. That's why I laughed.
Artwork. That's so cool. I get it home and the first song.
Love it, man. I used to love it. You can listen to the music, touch it.
Hold on,
Lemoyne. You got to listen to the punchline here.
I get home and it's Molly Hatchet. So the first song I hear is Flirting with Disaster. I'm like, this isn't heavy metal at all, but I love it. So that was one of my introductions into Southern rock. Was I thought I was buying a heavy metal album because they had the coolest artwork, man.
Right, and that's the other
think
thing.
About it. Think about it. Now think about it. Now, when back in our day, when you bought a record, first of all, you could buy a whole album for $7-8, under $10.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Easy. You can open it up. You can see your favorite artist. You can read the credits. You can see the pictures.
And I loved all that stuff.
Right. You can read the lyrics.
What do you get now? What do you get now when you buy an album?
Not a damn thing, man.
You get something.
See, I'm changing that. Let me tell you what I'm doing.
Cool.
Prime example. I'm going to show you something.
Okay. Please. Right on. Lemoyne Alexander, ladies and gentlemen. Lemoyne Alexander.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is something new.
Okay.
This is my album.
Oh, right on. It's a guitar.
Dude, that is badass.
Yes. You open this up, put it in your computer. Sweet. You're going to see the credits. You're going to see the photos. You're going to get the album. You're going to get rarities. Genius. You're going to get everything on this right here. So legit, if you want to download an album cover, you can get it from here. Put it right on your screen. You can. It's got a little device in here where you can make posters. And go get posters made.
Dude, I love that.
That's fantastic, Lemoyne.
This is going to be my new album, just like this when it comes out.
I'm buying it right like that. That's awesome. Yeah. I got to have one.
Yeah, that's legit, man. Yeah. That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant.
My management came up with that. They was like, look, we're going back to the old school, but the old school, there's ways you can even get vinyl from here.
Really?
It's got so much information in here for you to get everything you need, just like it was when we can go to the record store and buy all of it. It's got the credits, photographs, rarities, and if you want vinyl, you can order vinyl in here.
Right on.
Videos, you even get videos in here. Everything is crazy, man.
That's cool. And what's that going to cost?
This here is probably, honestly, at best, maybe $20 or less.
Right on. That's cool.
Yep.
That's cool.
That will be in my studio right here as soon as it comes out.
That's cool. That's very
cool, that's the way we doing it now. You know, and I agreed to it because it was like, I want to go back to the way things were when music was fun and you can purchase music. People are scared to buy because you're not getting nothing when you buy the songs. It's just a song you download and put it.
And that's why I won't just download a song. I'll download, and I've discovered better music on the artists that I downloaded that I bought the album for one song. Then all of a sudden, like the entire album, I'm like, holy shit, these guys are great, which I never would have done if I was just buying song by song by song.
Exactly.
Like Alter Bridge, I never would have fell in love with Alter Bridge had I just downloaded Rise Today.
But something that we all talked about earlier, the band has to prove to us that they can write an entire album these days too, right?
Exactly. You hit it right on the nail.
So many people are writing for the single, right? They don't care. Everything else is just filler, or they're not doing an entire album at all. Yeah,
and I've had that problem too, where I've downloaded an album because I wanted one song, and the rest of the album sucks. And that's, but see, that's the brilliance of in our generation going to the record store.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You know, Motley Crue comes out, you see Shout at the Devil album cover, oh, this is going to be legit, and then you may only like one song. Like you
Yep.
you
It was
bought
a gamble. We knew
right,
that.
but that was the cool thing about it, because part of the
Cool thing
experience.
about and you're right, it is a gamble, but
Mhm.
if you really look at it, it's really not, because they're
Right.
giving you more
Sure.
music
Oh,
for
yeah.
you to learn and choose
Right.
from that
Right.
you would get, that you would normally get back in
Right.
those days that you
Exactly.
can't do today.
Well,
Exactly.
and I'll tell you, one of the things that we talk about that is a lost art these days is when you did find that album, like Shout at the Devil, that was great all the way through, you got your buddies together and everybody just listened to it over
Yeah.
and over and over again, man. You know, that's how you spent your Friday and Saturday nights
Yep.
until the next
I got
great
I'm
album
gonna tell
came
you
along.
guys something.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the first album,
Mm-hmm.
Solitude, there's a last song. When you get a chance to, I want you to go listen to that
Yeah.
last song.
Oh, yeah.
The song is called Euphoria.
Okay.
It's an 8-minute song of
Right
just
on.
instrumentals of me just jamming through genres that I
Right on.
learned how to perfect. I did
on.
everything. The only genre that's not in that particular song is rap, but
Okay.
all the genres that I was influenced with, I played guitar solos over all of that.
That's awesome.
Now,
Cool.
when I was doing the album, I was asked, why are you doing that? I said, because I want to go back to the way things was back in the old days when you can buy a full-length album and you get that instrumental where it's just nothing but just music.
Yeah.
And when I did it, it went, my fans were nuts.
Well, now
They
I'll-
said,
Yeah.
Now
yeah.
I'll tell you something that'll be unparalleled with that. I was always super insecure as a songwriter because I had nothing to compare myself to, right? When I met these guys, they gave me more compliments that we never talked about until now. That, like, when Chris wanted me to write music for his spoken word, you know, I knew how much that meant to him. But then I understood that all this, what I thought was nonsense, was really music, right? Mm-hmm. Because I would just sit there and play, and these guys would be like, "Hey, what's that?" You know, or "What's that? Do that again." You know.
Mm-hmm.
that's true.
My problem is my brain is so chaotic that I don't think like a drummer. That's why I'm not well at beats. I can
I
write.
can't wait to hear you guys.
I can write riffs till the cows come home, but a lot of them just overlap each other, right? So these guys would slow my brain down enough to say, "Hey, I like that. Do that again," or "I like this. Do that again."
Yeah.
Yeah, because the way
I missed that.
Yeah. The way I write, it's basically a poetry. It's a poem. It's 4 verses, 4-line verses, and then a 4-line chorus, and then I'd give that to Mike, and then we would evolve it however we evolved it. But it always started out in the basic ballad format of poetry, because that's when I first started writing in that style was high school, because an English teacher challenged me to stop being a dumb jock and write a poem. Okay.
You guys got great stories, man.
Yeah,
Great stories.
So, but that's kind of how that evolved. So that I learned how to write just from a poetry standpoint, and then it's
Right.
it just evolved from there. And I still write it from a poetry standpoint. When I send him stuff, it's like, here, check this out. And he can pick up the attitude from it instantly.
That's the prime reason why I did these instrumentals, because I wanted people to just, euphoria means, being relaxed and listen to music. So I said, well, I'm just going to make a song where it's just nothing but just music, and I'm just doing my guitar solos over it.
That's awesome.
When
It went over really well. They asked me to do a second one. I did it on the second album, and now I'm doing it on the third album. So there's 3 parts of it.
Oh, right on. That's even
And
better.
you get to listen to all 3. And I just did an interview last week, and they said, we heard them, and why don't you? He suggested I do a release of all of the Euphorias on one album.
Not like a trilogy.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's cool.
and I said that's a good idea. So I think I'm gonna do that after I get about 2 more. Because I'm gonna keep the train going. The next album, I'm gonna do another one and another one, and then I'll compile them all on one album.
That's cool.
I have
That's
a
good
piece
idea.
of music like that. It's just 2 pieces, but I wrote it when I was going through the throes of my addiction, and I credit that piece of music with saving my life because I played it over and over and over. And in the middle of the night one night, a guy that was, an unsavory character, but he was around a lot. he heard that piece of music, and this is not what you would expect from this guy. He said, keep playing stuff like that, man, because the world needs more of it.
Yes, that is so true. The
It
world
just,
needs fresh music.
Lemoyne, it stopped me dead in my tracks because it came from somebody. That guy he didn't talk like that, But
Right.
me playing that piece of music changed his brain at that moment in time from being a mean, tough, cussing, drug addict, alcoholic. He was just that kind of guy, and he talked that way. But
Hey,
he
now
stopped.
you see.
He stopped me dead in my tracks. That was a moment in time, and I have a lot of those where I know music can change someone.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
music can, and that's a prime example of insecurity. When you hear insecurity, even now, when I even go back and listen to it, I'm like, oh wow, I see what everybody is talking about now, and it's a staple, one of my biggest songs, and it's a staple in my career. That it's more than just a song to me. It's like you just said, it saved your life. This song really helped me, get over a lot of things.
Well, hearing you tell that story makes me inspired to, I have to get that recorded because I think the world needs to hear it. That guy that made that statement is no longer with us. So
wow.
There was a reason he was placed on this earth, and I know it was for more than that, but he was in my life, he was placed there to say that at that moment in time. So
and it helped you.
And hearing your story, I put it out there because this is how I was feeling. I don't know how people are going to react to it.
Right.
And it spoke to them because it came from your soul,
Exactly. Yes. That's exactly, you put it perfectly.
Right. And that goes back to songwriting itself. When you're writing a song that's just about, going out and getting drunk and getting laid, there's no meaning to that. You're not going to look back on that 20 years and reflect, oh yeah.
Exactly.
Like the stuff, everything I've ever written that was put down to music, I can listen to that song and I can know it takes me back exactly to why I wrote it, most of the time where I wrote it, where I came up with it, and I can remember the structure of it because it has meaning, because there's purpose behind it. Like a lot of people always asked us, because we were a band in the early 90s and stuff, so when we disbanded, it was 95, 96, so we didn't really go as high as we could have gone, but we were Creed before Creed was Creed, because that's how I write. I write about life and things like that. I have a better range than Stapp had or has, but that's kind of why we were able to play with as many different acts that we played with. We opened for everybody from Marshall Tucker Band to Enough's Enough, because we were just a good old-fashioned rock and roll band that had substance, and we had enough of a draw, because back then, which you can probably relate to, you had to sell tickets to your shows. Like, nobody was promoting you but yourself.
Yeah,
So
I remember
the
those days.
Right, so the crowd was dependent on what we did to promote ourselves. And that's lost in this world now, too, because nobody's doing the work. Nobody's spending the time to stand in front of a janitor and two waitresses and the bartender, or 3,000 people, packed in, because you've grown organically over time. You don't get that. It's instant. I want one song to make, 3 million downloads, so I make $800. Next. And the label gets all of it. Next.
Just like we could spend $1,000 a week promoting this podcast, and we could have millions of hits. But none of them mean anything because they're all bots, right?
Right. We've grown the scene organically, Lemoyne, to the fact that we really started paying attention to, at least I did, from some content-wise on YouTube in March. We just passed 85,000 views. Now, to put it in perspective, my business YouTube page, which I've had since 2005 or 6, I'm just under 500,000 views, and I have probably 600 videos and content.
Congratulations.
To put it into perspective for you even more, that's a 70% increase in 3 months, because we only had about 30,000 views up till that point, when he shifted his focus to being consistent and doing things a certain way. And all of a sudden I was like, you're rapidly approaching 100,000 views,
and I'm
right?
like, no, because they don't look at the numbers, man.
Congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I don't even pay attention to it. I just do it. So that's what makes it even more special, is that we're not paying for it. So many, like, we get hit up all the time. Oh, $200 will get you 100,000 views. No. What do you mean, no?
And for me, selfishly, he's fulfilling my dream by finding a musician that is speaking on the same level as we are as songwriters, and as a musician reached heights that, we had aspirations to at that time of reaching. And for, whatever reason or another, the stars weren't aligned at that time. But I agree with Chris, man. I never had more fun musically in my life and never felt more free as a musician or a human being as the time that I was surrounded by those three guys. That's what they meant to me, right?
Yeah. And so it's a brotherhood, man. It's a family.
This is definitely a brotherhood. Bands, brotherhood. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And as musicians, we all stick together. That's why this is a dream for me. Part of starting this podcast was to be creative again and to grow something from the ground up, like planting a seed, right? I'm not a gardener. This is my garden. This is our playground. Every now and then we get the, maybe you cuss a little too much or whatever.
Yeah, we do.
This is our, for good or bad, ladies and gentlemen, this is my playground. I have to have a place where I can be creative, right? Chris has to have a place where he can feel like himself as an artist.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
we're sorry for the language every now and then, but Lemoyne will back us up. Musicians have their own language.
They do.
Yes, we do.
Amen. Amen. I want to ask you something about your life resume in the music industry, Lemoyne. I want to know, in your opinion, because it sounds like you have met a ton of people along your journey. What would be the one that starstruck you that you met? Did we lose him?
I was going to say, did you? I lost his video.
I lost his video too. Hello, Lemoyne. I keep saying Lemoyne.
Like Des Moines.
We may have lost Lemoyne. I don't know if I have his number to call him either. Oh,
I wonder if his internet went out. They might be having storms up that way today. There was a front moving through. I didn't know he was in Chicago.
I didn't either. So,
dude, what a fascinating individual.
Yeah. Right? That was, dude, very cool guy. Very good human.
I wanted to ask him about his songs he wrote for DMX and Aaliyah, too.
Yeah, well, that's why I was kind of going with that. I wanted to see what he said as far as, who he had met and that kind of thing. Then take that to a whole new level on, because it'd be interesting to see, because the names that he dropped to the people he worked with, and, would he ever have actually been starstruck? Like, I wanted to ask him if he referenced Prince. I'd be like, dude, did you never meet Prince? Because R. Kelly's kind of, dark.
Yeah, he definitely tainted his own name.
Yeah. So not that it wasn't impressive that he worked with R. Kelly, but,
That's just one of those names where it's not like Ted Nugent where you can go, yeah, I love his music, but I hate his politics, right? Or whatever you hate about him, You can't take away from the fact that Uncle Ted is an amazing guitar player.
No, you can't, and he is, for sure.
I'll give him a second and see if he can log back on.
I'm going to the email, and I'm going to email him and see what if he responds.
That dude's definitely legit, though, man. Holy crap!
Yeah.
Very much as far as a life's resume in music goes, he's been there, done that on both sides of the fence, as a rock and roll guy and as a hip hop guy and as a rap guy.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing that's why I asked him about the rap, because I'd never really gotten to rap, as you know, but it was interesting that his what he did for how he brought the guitars and the bass and stuff into rap was pretty legit.
And it's funny because that was about the same time. I was at Guitar Center a couple years before that, but it would have been along the same timeline as.
Sorry about that, guys.
No,
there
you're
you
totally
are.
fine,
Right
man.
on, dude. I was just emailing you.
Modern technology, it doesn't work all the time.
And we were just
Always
talking.
happens like that.
And you're sideways. And we were talking about you behind your back.
I'm here.
We hear you.
Hold on.
It's all good, man. So Mike has a couple questions for you that he was hoping you'd come back so he could ask. So
Sure. I'm here.
Yeah.
So when I was doing my research, I saw that you were somehow involved in writing songs for DMX and Aaliyah.
Yes.
Tell me about those, please.
The process with Aaliyah first was when remember I told you, the guys called me down and they wanted me to work with R. Kelly.
Yeah.
I had two guys that called me and they wanted me to be a part of the team, R. Kelly's music team.
Yeah.
And how that happened was he was literally in the studio working, and they asked me and the other two guys to participate in helping with the production of the song, and that's what we did. We spent, like, honestly, on that one song, I think we spent about 3 days straight.
Wow.
Nobody showered or nothing. So you
Wow.
can imagine what it smelled like at that point.
Yeah, buddy.
And once R. Kelly did his job, he left the rest of it to us. Then we end up going into the studio and we finalized the project. And once it was done with all our expertise together, we all gelled together to make that song sound good. And it was approved and it came out.
What was the name of that song?
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Okay. I wanted to look that one up.
Let me see. Do I have the record for that? I think I do. Yes, it was called Back and Forth, and that was Aaliyah's debut album, from her debut album.
Okay.
Okay.
What
There's
was the
going to
other
be
record you were saying?
the DMX.
DMX and I became good friends back right a little bit before he died, and there was a song we were working on together, "Hey Yo Kato," for a friend of ours that passed. And we had planned on he was me and him was talking about joining his company. He had a new company he had just started. I forgot the name of it, but we were talking about me signing with him during that time. But then he got caught up in some other stuff, and not shortly he passed.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we did. We had started on. I was particularly asked to join in on from a friend of mine to produce for him when he flew into Chicago, and they called me, and I went to the studio, and that's when I met him, and I came up with these ideas for songs for him, and it went from I had just finished doing the soundtrack for Crime Partners, a film with Ice-T and Snoop Dogg,
Oh, right
and
on.
so my friend Kato wanted to get involved with the soundtrack, but the soundtrack was already done. So when I told him I was working I'm getting ready to do some stuff with DMX, he said, "Oh man, I got to meet him. Let me meet him." So when DMX came in, I introduced them two together, and they became best friends. The two
That's
of them
awesome.
alone. That's awesome. And he had just started his new production company, which we were talking about. And my friend that I introduced to Kato was buying a spot on his production company for the movie. I forgot the name of the movie that DMX was doing a soundtrack for, and we were all involved in it. And what happened was he got killed,
Oh, that's a bad day.
and
That's a bad day.
and yeah, he got killed, and DMX went nuts, and we all came together to try to come up with a song for his passing, and that's what the Ayo Kato song was about from that point on. But after that, DMX lost it, and we lost contact with each other. I think he just went sideways, and from that, and from him going in that direction, I couldn't reach him. And when I heard the news that he had passed, it was too late by then.
That's really
I
sad.
know a lot of people that I worked with during my career as a producer. I can't reach none of these people no more because they have their ins and outs. Some people
Yeah.
I can still get a hold to, if I work a little bit harder to get to them,
Right.
But that was during the rap days, and pretty much most of those people that I worked for and did records with are not even doing rap anymore.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Wow. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, like you've dropped some amazing names in the music industry, right? I just I have to tell you that. What's the one artist you've ever worked with or met that you just were kind of like, oh,
I would have loved to work with, and I was getting close. That's another one with
Okay.
Michael Jackson.
yeah, that would have been cool.
Everybody has a Prince story. I do have a Prince story.
Right on. Let's hear the Prince story, man. Because Prince, just so you understand, okay. So Mike and I, and as far as Prince is concerned as a musician, he's one of the most prolific musicians that
Yeah.
just the dude. just I would love to be in his brain for an hour.
Yep.
Because to me, the songs that he like Little Red Corvette, right? Like
Yes.
you how much of that did he hear in his head, right? Before he actually put it down, and the fact that he could take what he has in his head and put that down and produce it to it just I wish I could do that, and I can't. I don't have that innate ability that someone like him had. I need people like Mike to help put when we were writing our music and stuff, to put my vision of what I hear down.
Right.
But I think somebody like Prince and the Michael Jacksons and even Kid Rock, because they're and probably you too, because you can play everything, so you can probably hear everything in your head, kind of like Mozart, right? Like a composer. You're hearing all these different elements, and you know where they can go, and you just know how to put them down into the system and make it come out like so
that's true.
so yes, bring us your Prince story,
Please.
Well, on the highlight of my career, I was doing production, and my lawyers reached out to me and they asked me, would you like to work for Prince? Prince is looking for somebody to program for him at Paisley Park.
Nice.
I was like, really?
Did you go to
I
Paisley
looked at
Park?
the opportunity like, really?
Yeah.
And they came to me and they asked me. So I was like, I was like devastated, right? So
yeah
I said, so what, tell me the details about the job and everything.
yeah
And so when they brought it to me, he had already heard who I was. And there was a conflict in the early part of a song that I had did using a sample from another producer that we did together that, it got blown over. He didn't bother me about it no more.
yeah
But what I did learn about it was that he had heard my production and he's considering me working for him. And
Cool.
I thought about it for like 2 days.
Well, yeah.
And like you just said, I looked up to Prince.
No. How could you not? I mean, as a musician, how could you not, right? Oh, his recording stopped again.
I patterned my life behind him to a point where,
Okay.
I was so highly influenced by this man. It didn't even, the thought of me working for him was just no brainer.
Yeah.
But I think it was the third day, they called me back, said, I was like, are you going to do it? And I was like, I thought about it. I said, no, because I know if I do it, I'm not going to have the same respect for him. Because I grew up respecting him.
I guess yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because once you start working for somebody that you were highly influenced, you see flaws, you see things, you hear things, and you go, oh man, I didn't know it was like this or that, and then it changes your perspective of that
totally
artist that you
understand
grew up
that.
listening to. So I was like, I think I'm cool with the way that it is right now.
Right on.
So
I like that. I like that
satisfied.
response. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And I respected them for asking me, and even him considering me working for him. But I think because I couldn't do it.
I think that might be the most impressive response to being comfortable in your own skin as an artist that I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I get that response because again, you have somebody on such a high level because he's Prince.
Yeah.
And then you could theoretically see the dark side and not like what you see. And then all of a sudden that person you hold in such high esteem, it completely changes. It's kind of like maybe somebody,
and that's what I was afraid of. I thought about it for 2 days. I mean, they had been calling me every day, and on the third day, I was like, I had to turn it down. It's like, man, are you? And the weirdest thing was, you're crazy. Why would you turn? What?
Well,
and it didn't even matter what he was offering, because what he was offering to pay me was ridiculous. But
well, of course, it's Prince money, man.
It was Prince. It was just the fact that it was Prince.
But see, that goes back to that Nietzsche quote: "Careful how long you gaze into the abyss, because the abyss also gazes into you." Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly what Chris just said. You pull the curtain back, you never know what you're going to see.
No.
Yeah, and I was afraid of that, and I thought about it, and so I shared this information with you. The same thing I told him, and he thought I was crazy. He literally thought that man, that's Prince. How could you turn down Prince? And I was like, I have too much respect for him to work for him.
Right, because how could you comfortably give him your opinion? Like, he's Prince. Like, hey man, that part in Purple Rain you just did, I don't like that. I think you need to go this way.
I wish I could give the guy credit, but I remember one of Stevie Ray Vaughan's producers in one of the documentaries I wrote. He said Stevie would play between 60 and 62 solos on average for every piece of music that he wrote. And then he would ask him to pick one. And he's like, all 62 were fucking brilliant. So how do you pick?
Exactly.
He's like, there wasn't one flaw in any of them. They were just different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, that's how good Stevie Ray Vaughan was.
Yeah.
I've never been able to say that about anybody else. He's like, all 62 of them were brilliant.
That is crazy.
That's amazing.
So yeah,
So
like I said, those times I've met lots of people in my career, and I've been blessed to be able to work and have all of this stuff happening at the same time. But my biggest accomplishment to me is actually doing my own music now. I feel so much better about that.
Yeah, and rightfully so, because you've been doing it for so long. It's about time you got your turn. Like, we had a guy on that's a boxer, right? He's been boxing for 16 plus years. He just finally got to the pros. Wow. Like, it literally, since he was 19 years old, 15 years old, he started boxing.
Yep.
Amateur when he was 19, but that was, I forget what he called it, but it was basically the
Pee-wee
what
League.
he called that, the Pee Wee League.
Yeah,
he did that.
I remember that.
Yeah, he did that for a certain amount of time. Then he was an amateur, I think, for 10 years.
The Open Pro or the Open Amateur League.
Right, Open Amateur League. Well, so it's amazing that 16 plus years just to get to become a pro, and he's going to have his third professional fight next week.
Wow.
Musicians are very much the same way.
Right, and he's 36 years old. It's like, and so that was fascinating to me, because the time that you put in, musicians put in, and it's not just wake up one day. I mean, granted, when we're in the zone and the muse is there, right? I could write a song. I could write 5 songs right now if I was in that zone, and Mike could write music for him. And boom, all of a sudden you have 5 songs.
Yeah.
But people don't understand that how much of that is a craft, and you have to hone that.
It's definitely a craft. It takes time to really, really put songs together, especially songs that's meaningful, that people can get out of.
Well,
I'm thinking about it.
I think
writer,
I think Chris just said it best. The mood has to be right. The time has to be right. I apologize for interrupting you, but people don't.
No. You're absolutely right. Everything has its timing.
Yes.
And what I learned is I don't put a lot of emphasis in, I got to find the right song. I just write.
Thank you.
I write what I feel. I do what I do, and I just keep it going. And I don't even think twice about it. I'll come back and listen to it and go, that sounds good. Or no, this ain't going to work. And I usually pass it off to some of my friends that are not in the music business, some girls I know or whatever, and say, listen to this, tell me what you think of it. And they'll tell me the truth. Yeah. And we go from there. And then I'll take a chance on it. And, but I don't, have this pen and you know this word and this and that. I just write what I feel. I go in and I sing it. That's it.
Yep.
I don't put any thought into it. I just go for it.
No, it's one of the coolest stories I ever heard about music and bands. Bon Jovi, when they were writing New Jersey, right, their breakthrough, right, they would lay down songs in the studio and then go to the local the pizza joint. There's a pizza joint near the studio, and they would play it at the pizza joint on the jukebox and watch the kids' reaction, and then based on that reaction, they knew if that song should make the album or not.
Yeah,
and they would go back, and
that's a great tactic.
Right, and they just kept doing that until they had 12 songs on that record they knew were going to relate, because everybody in that pizza shop was, jiving to those songs.
Brilliant for the day.
You just reminded me of something. Okay. When I was doing rap, when I was a rap producer.
Okay.
Majority, and I used to teach everybody this when I would be doing an artist. If I'm working with an artist, I said, okay, look, we'll take a break. We'll do the beat. They finished the song. We're not mixing it. We just did a rough mix of it.
Yeah.
We go to the nearest club, pay the DJ, play the song. He'll play it in the club and get a response to it.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back into the studio. Hey, that bass was too low. We need to bring that back up.
Nice.
the people like that little break. Let's make the break longer, and then
Yeah.
we'll do these kind of things to make the song better. Go back into the studio and fix
Yeah.
it. This is all in one night of us
Yeah.
producing the song.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
used to
how,
do that
yeah.
back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah, and see, to me, that's what a producer should do. It should take your product and elevate it.
Yeah.
Not just sit there and, okay, you're gonna do this and let me change the volume and the sets and this and this. They should take that product and that's what I knew when we did the whole thing with Universal Records, that he wasn't a producer, he was a producer.
Right.
He was an
That's
engineer.
Basically, yeah, that's what his role was. And
So
because I kept kind of saying like, well, what should we do here? Well, it's your song. Well, I know what, produce it, man. Produce me.
That is true.
I think that, and Lemoyne, you can back me up. I think that we owe the audience a definition of a producer. And
Yes.
the easiest layman's terms for me is if you've ever heard a band play a song before it was actually recorded and the producer got a hold of it, that's a great example of why that guy is there, right?
Exactly. That is so true. You hit it right on the nail.
The song sounds one way before you hear it, and then you hear all the... I just got asked this question by a guy that I work with the other day. He says, how do you know where to put certain things in a song? I said, sometimes you know as the songwriter.
I get that. I got those questions too. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
how do you know? Even with my own songs, I'm like, it's in the universe. You just
Yeah.
But then
This happens.
there's times where I might write something and you hear it and you're like, hey man, have you ever thought about this section here? Have you ever thought about doing this? And I'm like, no, I'd never. That thought would have never
I've got
crossed my
lots of
mind.
that.
Yes.
I got lots of those too.
That's
Yeah.
what a producer does. A producer takes a piece of music and hears things that the artist didn't hear when they were writing the song. Correct?
Exactly.
Is that a good
Yeah.
layman's
That's
terms
a-
definition?
Great definition.
Okay.
Fantastic. That's it's so true.
We keep
Real.
talking like we have our own language, and I just realized we're saying things that people probably are like, what's a producer? What's an engineer? An engineer is what Chris described. He's the guy that actually
Yeah.
puts the equipment where it needs to be to make the sound.
Yes. That is so true.
And it sucks when you have a guy who says he's a producer and all he's doing is dialing in a sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The one
I
benefit
don't
we
like
had-
those kind of producers. I
No,
mean, to me, producers are the essential part of any song.
Right. And that's what you expect to
Second,
get.
they may not be able to, all of them may not play instruments, but they have some kind of knowledge from the instrument by
True, yeah.
mixing and producing it
Right.
to enough that they can hear whether it goes there or not.
Yes.
Correct.
Even the vocals, even the smallest thing like a triangle bill or a Congo or something. Like, no, don't put that there. Put it right here.
Right. Exactly.
You know what
It's
I'm
like
saying?
It's like, it's like the cowbell, man.
Yeah,
You got to have more
cowbells.
cowbell.
Exactly, exactly. So when I say producer, that's what you need. A real producer knows music, and
Yeah.
today's producers are like Fruity Loops, and because they can do a song on a laptop, they call themselves a producer. That's not a producer. You put a
Right.
budget in his hand, he wouldn't know what to do.
Correct.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, huh? And that's not me. I could take a I could take a $40,000 song, and when I'm done with it,
Right.
I can cut that cost down to half or even less than that, time-wise, because I don't really need the artist. Once the artist does his job, the rest is on me. The artist can
Sure.
go home, go to club or whatever, and then
Right.
I take it from there.
Yeah.
And I don't spend a lot of time like, the older producers, they be in the studio for days and
Right.
days, and the record company's budgets is like damn near $100,000.
Yeah.
Nah, I think it's stupid to waste all that time sitting in the studio pushing one button at a time when you can
Yeah.
knock all that out in 24, 48 hours and you got a whole project done.
Okay, let me ask you this with that said. You're familiar with Metallica's Black Album, right?
Yes.
Would you agree that is sonically not one of the best sounding albums in heavy metal?
I would agree. I
Okay.
would definitely agree. I think that the Black Album was really underplayed, and they didn't really do
They
it.
didn't dive into it. They didn't dive into it.
Yeah.
They played Inner Sandman for the most part, and it's all you ever hear from Black on a commercial level is that one song.
So you know that album took over a year to make and it cost over $1 million, right?
That's what I heard. Yep.
Do you think that you could have done that album cheaper at that time? Because I
I
think
sure could. Yes.
Really?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
That's
I'd
my
got
question.
it done. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
I would have got that album done honestly in 2 months for maybe $50,000-$60,000.
So here's where I think Bob Rock would disagree with you. He would say that you could have never got those guys under control for that short of time to be
that's
that.
the only problem. Remember what I said earlier?
Yes.
The artist, the work is with the producer. Bob Rock is the producer. So as long as they do their job and you get them there, get them the hell out of there, because you'll never get no work done while they're there. So my job was to make sure, hey, you got your shit done? Okay, you can leave. Go have a drink. Go to the club or something and let me do what I do.
Here's the reason I asked that question, and you can, I think you would enjoy it. I ran across 2 hours and 14 minutes of outtakes from a year and a half in the life of Metallica, right? We've all seen a year and a half in the life of Metallica. If you're into hard rock music or heavy metal,
Yes, I am.
It's one of the most famous documentaries in the history of the world at this point.
Yes, I saw it.
Yep.
I just saw 2 hours and 14 minutes that we've never seen last night.
Oh,
I'd like to see it.
yeah. Where'd you get that?
I will do my best to find it again, and I will send you guys a link.
Cool.
Because I'm sure it's in my past history. Mm-hmm. What I got out of that, Lemoyne, was how integral Lars is to the songwriting process, and he is outvoted like 3 or 4 or 5 to 1, and ends up getting his way because he keeps explaining it in a different way. But I think that's where a lot of the time constraints came from that took so long, is because they were changing things even after they started recording, which is not ideal. Yeah. But I was fascinated with what he would hear in his head and say, you guys are missing what I'm saying, man. He's doing this shit too much. I want him to lay back on the backbeat. I want him to follow the hi-hat or the toms, or, his ability to hear things, like you're saying, that the artist normally wouldn't hear, just fascinated me.
Yes.
They would not be that band without that guy. People need to understand that hate him,
With my experience as a producer, I learned a lot about how I produce by working with multiple artists of different genres. But the challenge has always been because I'm a producer and I'm producing myself.
Right. And you're harder on yourself.
I have to double question myself.
Absolutely.
And so I usually have to bring somebody in. Mostly my manager is like that. He's that second guy that would give me what I'm looking for, the truth behind what I'm doing. No, don't do that. That's not a good idea. And I have to follow it because I'm merely producing myself, as opposed to if I was producing another artist, I wouldn't need his compliment or anything, because I know exactly what that artist needs, and I know what's going on, what to do with that artist. But when I'm doing me, I'm very critical, and I can't, I know what I want, I know what I hear, and I know what I'm trying to do, but am I sure about it?
It's hard to get away from it when you're the one on the inside. Yeah.
Because, I don't want to be like, well, this is, I'm listening to my own music and it sounds good to me. I don't care about everybody else, but that's, because that's not how I am. I want everybody to love it besides me.
Right. Agreed.
So, I have problems with that. I still have problems with that till this day. So, 9 times out of 10, I'll do a song, send it to my manager. What you think it is, Hey, change that one word and you good. Or change that bass line or try that.
And that's where the trust comes in, to people that you surround yourself with when you're creating what you're creating, regardless of what it is. You have to be able to rely on them for their honest opinion, not just being yes or no.
Yes. That is so true.
When I went to these guys, I was honestly looking for their opinion, where if it was somebody from the outside looking in, you're always a little more guarded, right? Like now that I know you, if I sent you a piece of music and you said, hey man, have you ever thought about this or that? I would be all ears, right? Yeah, let's try it. If Chris says, hey, let's make this verse a little bit longer, I need a little more time to get what I want out, I'm all ears, man. I'm here to serve the song, right? I'm not serving myself as a player.
It's all about the song.
Thank you.
Yes.
Take all options and take opportunities from other people. Whoever is giving you advice on anything, take it, because you never know what you're going to come across.
Right.
I'll tell you the funniest story about jamming with my drummer for the first or second time is I love drums, man. I wanted to be a drummer. My wanting to do so far outweighed my ability to do so, right?
Right.
So we're jamming, writing songs, and I'm like, I hit them harder, just I want to hear them, I want more, He started laughing. He's like, man, I jammed with a lot of people. And he says, I always heard the opposite. You're playing too fast, you're playing too hard, you're playing too much, and here you are telling me to play louder and more. I'm like, well, I love drums, man.
Yeah.
I want to hear that rhythm. That's what makes people move.
That is true. That is true.
Guitar's fun for you and I to sit around and play by ourselves because we love guitar. But people only want to hear so much of that by itself before
they want to hear that beat, man. That backbeat is the one.
Yes.
Yep.
Chris said it best earlier. When you throw the bass in there, the whole song changes.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
Everything. That's why I admire Prince. When he did When Doves Cry, he
good
tried
song.
everything he could to put a bass line in that song, and it just didn't fit.
Yep.
So he relied heavily on the drums. Boom, pop, pop, boom,
Yep.
pop, boom. Without that song wouldn't have been nothing. The beat is what carried When Doves.
Everybody knows that beat.
Yeah.
Yep. We could go on forever, but I don't think we should. We're like
I enjoy talking music with you guys.
I know,
man.
we're like
I'm looking
2
forward
hours.
to meeting you
Yeah.
and working with you guys.
Yeah, that would be fun, man. That would be fun. I know, I mean, and
Let's
now
keep
is your
this
home
relationship going?
Absolutely.
For
is
sure,
your home
man.
is your home base Chicago?
Yeah, right now.
Okay,
You
cool.
know, a record company had me come here so I could do these interviews and,
Gotcha.
Work on
Cool.
promos and
Right on.
try to finish up my album, which I just wrapped up in 2 days ago.
If you're
Cool.
going to be here through the summer, man, we'll have to figure out a way to meet like in Joliet or something. They're opening up a new casino there in August.
Hey, man.
We
perfect.
could meet there for dinner or something if you got a way to get down there and meet for
Yeah, I could do that. In fact, let's see if we can get some live performances up in there.
Let's write some songs first.
Yeah.
I'm down for that, man. I'd love to do that.
I'll come jam
do
with
it.
you.
Right on.
Cool. Let's do it.
Cool. I sent you my cell when you disappeared. I emailed you and said, where did you go? So my cell number's in there. So if you respond back to that with yours, I'll share it with Mike, and then we'll all group text and say hello, and then just keep in touch. And like I said, when you're getting ready to come to Arizona, man, reach out.
I sure will, definitely. Who's in Arizona? You, Mike?
Chris is in Arizona. Mike's in Illinois.
I'm in Illinois.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, Chris. I'll be in Arizona in about less than a week, and I'll just reach out to you and let you know when I'm there.
Absolutely, and we'll see if you
And when I get back,
you
Mike, you and I will get together whenever, because I'm here all the time.
Yeah, we'll plan a day for sure, man.
There you go.
Hey, I want to say,
yes.
first, I want to say thank you, Laura, for this interview.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Laura's the bomb. Laura is really the bomb. I want to thank Charles Swift, my record company, Wicked Entertainment.
There you
but
go.
more importantly, I want to thank all my fans because, without my fans, none of this would be possible. And I love the fact that they love my music. And I'm going to keep doing music as long as I can.
Right
And number one, I thank God for all of this happening.
There you go. What's the best place people can find you online? You
can find me online at LemoyneAlexander.com. Google search Lemoyne Alexander. You can go to Spotify, Apple.
Cool.
I'm everywhere in the world. All you have to do is just type in the name.
There you go.
Lemoyne Alexander.
There you go. Hey, we always wrap our show up like this. If you're having a bad day, don't let the bad days win. Somebody loves you. Somebody will miss you if you take your life, so don't do that. If you need somebody to talk to, you can go to the Google machine, find somebody that can listen to you and help talk you off that cliff, or reach out to family and friends, because you never know, they actually do want to hear from you, and they will help you overcome whatever trauma you're dealing with at the moment in time. For Chris and Mike, this is the Chris and Mike Show. For the world famous Lemoyne Alexander, dude, such a treat having you on the show, man.
Thanks for doing this, man. It was damn nice meeting you.
No problem. It was fun for me.
Yeah, and we don't look at this as an interview. We look at it as a conversation, because that's just how we roll, man. So anytime you want to come back on and have a conversation with us, let us know. We're happy to do it.
Yeah,
man.
after your album's been out for a little bit, give it a couple months and reach out to Chris again. Let us know how the album's doing, what kind of reaction you got, and what you're up to, okay?
Yeah.
I sure will. I will reach out to you guys as soon as the album is once again. Yeah. Once it's done and looks like this, I'm going to reach out to you guys.
Yeah, because I want to buy one.
Yeah, I want one too. Absolutely,
You
man.
got it. No problem,
brother.
guys.
Hey, have a great man. Have a great man. Have a great day. Anything you need, just reach out, and then, like I said, respond to that email, and we'll exchange all our digits, and we'll stay in touch and make the world a better place to live in.
You got it. Thank you, guys.
Peace. Thank you.
Right
Peace,
on.
everybody.
Have a good weekend.
Peace.
You too.
You
Love
too.
you. Love you. Love you, Mike.
Love you too,
Love
brother.
You too.
All right, man.